Hi, I'm Chris Sarandon, and welcome to Cooking by Heart, where we revisit the vivid memories of the food we grew up with.
I couldn't believe the tastes and the flavors.
Lydia Bastianich. Hi, Chris. Susan Sarandon.
And the people and the stories attached to that time in our lives.
I was the one sort of like mommy dearest.
My guest today is legendary guitarist and songwriter Rick Nielsen of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band Cheap Trick. With a career spanning over 5 decades, Rick has been the driving force behind some of rock's most memorable and timeless anthems, from the electrifying energy of Surrender to the infectious hooks of I Want You to Want Me. As the co-founder and lead guitarist of Cheap Trick, he's not just a musician, he's a living testament to the power of rock to transcend generations. Nielsen has been variously described as a homemade cartoon figure who is also a down-to-earth family man, a superlative guitarist who makes it look like a goof on stage, an inveterate joker whose best-known song is a sincere request for love. After 5 decades in the spotlight, Nielsen's accomplishments and enormous guitar collection could fill, in fact have filled, a museum. And he's still going strong. In fact, we are lucky enough to have caught him on a day off from the band's current tour. Welcome, Rick Nielsen, to Cooking by Heart. Good to see you, my friend.
Well, thank you, Chris. Honored to be with you.
As we just discussed before we came on the air, as they say, you're in Florida right now.
Yep.
And then you're hopping off to England, and then you're hopping off to Australia. How do you do it?
Well, I have permanent jet lag. That helps.
Uh-huh.
I never know what day it is or what time it is or where I am. But somewhere it's written down somewhere. So
Yeah. Somebody's got the information somewhere.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we normally start the show by asking our guests about their provenance, where they're from, because so much of that informs the food we grew up with. You're from?
Now I live in Rockford, Illinois, but I'm from Elmhurst, Illinois.
Right.
I was there till I was 8 years old. And then we moved to Rockford, Illinois, because my parents are opera singers.
Now, tell me how 2 opera singers functioned in Elmhurst and Rockford.
Well, both my grandfathers were ministers.
Ah.
And my father was he was in the Aleutian Islands, and he was down in New Mexico.
Yeah.
During the war, but he was a choir director, and he was into music all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He was an opera singer, and he played with Billy Graham, and he did all kinds of other stuff. And when I was 8 years old, my uncle, who started Muzak, called my dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, get your teeth drilled, and that's the music. He said, Ralph, can't just be singing for your supper. So there's a music store for sale in Rockford, Illinois. So we moved. So it was about 70 miles away from Elmhurst, Illinois. So we moved to Rockford in 1956, and opened the music store. And he continued to sing, but he also had now a retail store, which he had.
Right. So this was obviously a home filled with music. Yeah,
not the music I liked, because I didn't like to sing to the Barber of Seville, but that was the first act where I went on stage, and people.
Oh, really?
People started clapping and laughing, and I said, "That's what I like. This." I continue to have people. I like it when people laugh and clap.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about mom and dad. Now, What was it like around the house in terms of the sort of daily activity around food? Was mom the cook? Dad the cook?
No.
Did they share?
I don't think anybody was a cook.
Oh, really?
Not much, no, because when we moved to Rockford, they owned the music store, and my mother and father both worked. I mean, we were like one of the families back in the day that, we had 2 cars because they both worked.
Right.
And and then I walked down to the music store after school. And so I ate at a place called Geneva's Restaurant every day. I had hamburger steak, mashed potatoes and gravy, and cherry pie with chocolate ice cream every day.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This sounds like, oddly enough, this sounds like sort of like a version of my upbringing, because my dad owned a restaurant where I grew up in this small town in West Virginia. So I spent a lot of time eating in the restaurant.
Yeah, I did every day because my mother never really cooked, and I still eat out almost every day now too. So it's like,
oh, really?
I learned a little bit about cooking, and now I own 2 restaurants too.
Yeah. I want to get to that in a little bit.
Uh-oh.
But any siblings?
I'm an only child, so here's my story. I said, I'm used to playing with myself.
Yes, over and over and over again, right? Was there any time around a table when you guys sat around with a family?
Well,
was there extended family in the area?
No, because I have my uncle who ran Muzak. I used to have to go as a kid and replace these big, huge. I can see them. They're like this big. The reel you have to put it on their tape recorder because they would go for, I don't know, maybe 8 hours at a time. Those big, huge reels, and I used to have
of tape.
Yes, it's tape, like reel to reel tape.
I had no idea that that's the way it was done.
Well, this is like 1956.
Right. So it was not digital. It was obviously analog.
What's digital? What's digital, huh? And here's my 10 digitals.
I see them.
Yeah. So we were on Sundays. We would go to. The family would go out. We don't, because they sang at church too. My father was a choir director, and my mother was. She was a contralto, if you know what that is. I do indeed. Can you explain to our audience? Oh, contralto, it's not a soprano, which is high, or alto, which is low. Right. Contralto is even lower, and goes up high. My father was a lyric opera singer, and he was a tenor. Oh, really? And he was a choir director, too. So after church, where our church was, or my parents' church was, they'd make me go to church every Sunday, so I'd have to go to Sunday. Yeah. So did I. And then after that, we'd go to dinner. We went to, and my dad had a pilot's license too. So a lot of times we'd fly from Rockford to Lake Geneva, Lake Lawn, or Chicago to Meigs Field, which is we'd fly in there for lunch on Sundays. And what were those Sunday lunches like? Well, there was a place in Rockford we went to. It was called Bishop's Cafeteria. So you go through your tray and whatever. And that was pretty fancy. I wasn't always allowed to go get shrimp because that was the the expensive stuff. Right. So that was the kind of thing we did. But that was an adventure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Every Sunday we got to go someplace good. So I quit. Geneva's, my restaurant, wasn't open on Sundays. And that was right next door to my dad's store. Mm-hmm. Now, did you work in your dad's store when you were a kid? Yeah, I did. I did everything. I used to watch. My dad used to have record listening places where girls would put 45s. A booth? A little booth. Oh, wow. And I used to sit up above and I'd see if they were stealing stuff. And plus, I got to look at the girls, too. Yeah. But what was it? Actually in one of those booths? Yeah. That you see? Yeah? Yeah. It was, they didn't have music blasting the whole place. Right. They looked like little telephone booths. Right. And they had 45s in there and they'd play and I'd play. Mm-hmm. So you were kind of the jack of all tunes. Yeah. Jack Hart was in there. And plus I was just always around the instruments. I never had any formal training. I started out as a drummer, and I taught myself how to play everything else. Another one of our degrees of separation, because I played the drums when I was in high school. High school, yeah. I learned how it's helped me with songwriting too, because it wasn't 1, 2, 3, 4. It was 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. Right. And that's helped me in songwriting to know what the phrasing was. And I took drum lessons from a guy he was the Rudiment King. His name was Frank Arsenault. And he was dressed up as a drum majorette and stuff. And he was on Ludwig Records. And I still have it. He wrote to me, Richard, rudimentally yours, Frank Arsenault. 9 years old when I got that record. I still have the record. Oh, what was the record? It was on Ludwig Records, and it was he was the rudiment king. So
I see. So it was a recording of
Lamadiddle. Yeah, and we talk about digital. I had that 33 RPM record.
Right.
I did have it recorded digitally too.
Mm-hmm.
I have that stuff. Who's got a record player anymore?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Except they're returning now.
Yeah, I know.
We're going back. Do you indulge in that?
Well, yeah, I still have my record collection, but I just can't find the turntable. Yeah, I do have it. Yeah, but I always liked it because that's how I learned how to play guitar. I used to put the needle down.
Yep.
Pop it
on your hi-fi.
Yeah, and that was how it was done.
That's how I learned to play the drums as well.
Look up Frank Arsenal on Ludwig Records.
Oh, I will. I will indeed, because Ludwig is a big drum manufacturer.
Oh yeah, and Chicago. Yeah.
Are they still?
Well, yeah, they were. William F. Ludwig was.
Yeah.
I don't know. They probably have places all over the world now.
I remember the first set that I had was an old, bashed up. I can't remember if it was a Ludwig or not, and I had really bad cymbals, and I was always aspiring to getting Zelgin cymbals. Yeah. I had to have Zelgins. I had to have them, and finally, saved up enough money to buy one, like a 12-inch diameter cymbal. That was my basic ride cymbal and everything. At any rate, back to young Rick's history. So was there a particular like you were in public school?
Yeah.
What did you do about lunch when you went to school?
Well,
ate there.
When I got to junior high school, that's where I first started getting lunch. It was 35 cents. I'd buy 2 milks. It's like, and I always thought the food was good there. I think I may have been the only one, but otherwise, I think I probably brought a bag of lunch from home. Because my parents would, like I said, they're both
working parents.
Yeah, get a bag and make us. I used to eat peanut butter with sliced radishes. That was my favorite.
Peanut butter and radishes?
Sliced radishes, so you could fit it on there.
That sounds really interesting and kind of exotic. Or was it just that the radishes were in the refrigerator and the peanut butter was as well?
Well, no, I like radishes because they were good to chew on. It's like, and I still like it to this day.
Did you make the lunches yourself?
I think I did. Or my parents I had a nanny. Her name was Matilda Tyborg. She was from Sweden. Oh. And
did she cook?
I think she did. But it was like Kroopkraker and stuff.
I beg your pardon. God bless you.
Kroopkraker. Kroopkraker. Stuff is Swedish dish.
Yeah. What is it?
It's potatoes with a bit of meat in the middle. It's like Kroopkraker. I've never had to look it up, but that's what it is.
Okay. All right. And do you remember anything else she cooked?
Well, my mother occasionally, she called it hillbilly hash, which was...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, I'm thinking just like tomato sauce and ground beef and noodles, like elbow noodles.
Or whatever was kind of hanging around.
Whatever was left around.
Left over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was a big fan of Braunschweiger, too.
Oh.
Yeah, Braunschweiger with mustard.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, let's go to eat some food here.
All right. So as far as dinner table talk, did you guys talk about music? Do you remember?
Well, my father, he was like another group called the 16 Singing Men, which actually my mother was one of them on record too.
Oh, really?
He was on Zondervan and Word Records. It was a religious label,
right?
Zondervan and Word, and so my father was actually on more albums than I've been on.
Really?
About 40 different albums. He was like I said, he was a lyric opera, but he also sang with Billy Graham and all kinds of different stuff. And he had a group called the Serenaders, which is, as I was growing up, he had a 5-passenger plane. And so by the time I was 14 or something like that, I'd been in 48 states, Mexico, and Canada.
Wow.
Yeah, because he was, he had a license, so we used to fly.
Right.
It was called the Omni. It was like basically point to point.
Right. Single engine plane?
Yeah, we had a Tri-Pacer, Cessna 172, Beechcraft Bonanza, different ones.
Right, right. And he would fly to places. Did you guys travel? So you traveled with him.
Well, I traveled with him whenever I could, because I hated school. I really did.
Oh, really?
Being an only child, I was spoiled in the fact that they let me do stuff where I couldn't, where most kids wouldn't.
Yeah.
So it was a 5-passenger plane. Some of them, I think it was a Beechcraft Bonanza, and there was the maybe it's a 60. It was the 4 guys: my father, another tenor, a bass, and a keyboard player. And Jim Angel was the guy's name.
Oh, great name for religious, right?
Yeah. You couldn't make up this junk,
No, you can't. That's right.
Talk around there was I'd go with him. My dad did these things called community concerts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember those from when I was a kid.
Yeah, they weren't, it wasn't religious stuff, but it wasn't pop music,
Yeah. Or we had, at various times, a theater company would come through. Or the Vienna Boys Choir, or a solo pianist, classical pianist.
Yeah. That was Jim Angel. That was the guy that was with my dad. And it was like, yeah. And I knew music because of being around it. So it was like, when I was just a little shit. So, it's like, I'd go up to him, hey, Jim, I'd grab him at the end of the concert. Jim, you made, and that third one, you made a mistake. And it's like, and it's like, I was just the obnoxious terror little kid.
Right.
But I was right. And if I go back to school, in 7th grade, I was first chair on drums and flute, but I was around music. In 7th grade, I went up to I was in band, and I said, Mr. Bishel, you're an incompetent, drunken fool who doesn't deserve to teach music to me or anybody else. Boom, that was the last day I was in music in the Rockford public school system forever. I was banned for life.
Wow.
In 7th grade. I said, that was the last time I told the truth, because I got in trouble for it.
Right.
But, yeah.
Well, it doesn't sound like you talk around the truth much these days.
No, I can't remember anything, but it's too hard to remember lies, so I don't lie.
Yeah.
But when I tell the truth, I get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
Still can't shut my mouth.
On these trips, do you remember any culinary experiences there?
Well,
places where you went and suddenly you went, oh my God, what's this?
Well, yeah, I remember one time we went to a place called Crockett, Texas. And there were cockroaches all over the place. And I was like, and I'd remember being, because we'd drive in cars when we got there. I remember I saw a fuel truck tanker on fire where you could see the guy that burned inside the cab.
Jesus.
Yeah. And my dad got pulled over one time, and he said, sir, you're speeding here. And he said, officer, I beg to differ with you. I disagree. I said, I always wanted to wait till I could hear that again.
Right.
They believed him, right? They took him right down to jail.
Oh, really? Right. So you knew it.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you don't do in Texas.
No. Disagree with agree with the cop.
Yeah. Any culinary memories that you have from that time?
Well, I liked Mexican food starting there, in Tex-Mex or whatever it was called.
Was that the first time that you'd experienced it when you were a kid?
Well, my father's music store, we had Asian people, Korean people, Mexican people, German people, whatever.
Very international atmosphere, yeah.
So I ate at a lot of different places. I was the white kid that could play keyboard and guitar, and I was the only white kid I belonged to the El Dorado Club, because I could play keyboard and I could play guitar. This is growing a little older.
Right.
They're the El Dorado Club. So, hey, Rick, how y'all doing? It's like, I treat everybody the same. I treat everybody like crap, except you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I loved all kinds of different foods, but my mother really never cooked. So it's like, I wasn't afraid to eat this or that, afraid to eat
that. But through the fact that you were part of a very kind of, exceptional and eclectic and eccentric upbringing, in a way.
I don't think I knew what those words were, but today, that was me.
Interesting.
Plus, you play drums. I'm thrilled about that.
Yeah. Oh, I had a great time. We had a band all through a high school, and a couple of the guys went on to become musicians. There was one guy who ended up in Nashville as he ended up in the Pedal Steel Hall of Fame. This guy.
How about that?
Yeah, a guy by the name of Russ Hicks, wonderful guitar player who just passed away, sadly. At any rate, so through your experiences with the family traveling, you got to exposed to all kinds of different culinary experiences, and you guys obviously you ate out a fair amount of the time. What was the first time that you sort of broke out on your own in terms of being a musician?
Well,
first band.
My first band. Well, my first band was I played drums, and when a cute girl, Chris Jensen was her name, she played the flute. So I was in grade school, and I got to go in there, and I played the drums, and she's playing the flute. So I'm drowning her out immediately.
Right.
And plus, then there was too many drums I had to carry. That's why I moved over to guitar.
Right.
So that was my first. But then I was still in grade school, and I started a band like with her, and then some. There's always somebody that was always better than me. And there still are, you know. I know lots of famous people. It's like they're all better than me, but I haven't practiced since 1964. I think it was.
Well, but considering how often you play,
yeah, I know
how often you guys actually do gigs, it's extraordinary to me.
It is ridiculous. Oh, you said extraordinary. Sorry. Yeah,
but obviously you learned along the way.
Yeah, well, I knew a good note from a bad note. I mean, I started out on drums, and it's like I would try to get other guys into a band because it was more fun, you know, having a group. I'm not cute like you, so you know, it's like I'd like to surround myself with people that are good and talented. And I always, like I said, I knew the right note from a wrong note. I didn't know what the notes were.
Yeah,
I'd have to get off the drums and go over and. You know, it's like, this note is wrong. I don't know what it is. And I'd figure out the chord, and I hand the guitar back to the guy, and I get back on the drums. I said, after about 10 times of doing that, I decided I was just going to stick with the guitar. You know,
yeah, I better learn that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did.
Now, I just have this vision of you playing in a band with a female flautist. Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of music did you guys play?
Pretty bad stuff.
I could think so. Was it now we're talking 1950s, right?
Late 50s, yeah.
Late 50s. So, I mean, rock and roll was ascending.
Yeah.
R&B was around, certainly, because that's what we were playing in our band. You know, we were doing mostly covers of R&B songs of people much better than we were, obviously. But
you know, when it got to the 60s, then it was like the Orlans. I was a big fan of Orlans. Gene Pitney and Bruce Chanel. Hey, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's Hey, Baby.
Hey, baby, you gotta know.
Oh, you be my girl. Bump, 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 bump. Yeah.
And that was also like Gene Pitney because it was real singing, but there wasn't just the cornball stuff.
Yeah.
I liked the stuff that had a good beat to it and nice melodies. You know, it's like, because I was used to good melodies, but it was just like, I'm the barber of Seville. Shut up. Okay, we know you're the barber of
right.
Seville.
So you are an ascendant musician. You're learning different instruments.
Yep.
And what was your first foray into having a band where you guys were actually playing gigs? Were you making money in the beginning?
Yeah, I used to tell people. We still tell people. It's like we don't. To get jobs, you always had to say we're going to play the Stones or the Beatles or. Stuff like that, because we'd lie, but what we would do, you know, we liked that music, but it's like, that's a cover band. So we'd usually play the B-sides, like the Ventures. We didn't play Walk Don't Run. We played the 2,000-pound B, which is on the other side.
Never heard of that song.
Yeah, look it up. I'm not making it up.
Oh, I got to look that one up.
Yeah, and South Street. No, you play the other side, them terrible boots.
Classics.
Yeah, then I lived and later, but 10 years after that, then I lived in Philadelphia, and so we rehearsed down at 3rd and Race down by South Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a band with Tom Peterson and Stookie and actually Bunny.
This was the first time?
Well, this wasn't the first time. No, my first bands when I played in junior high school, basically, were actually bands with where we go out and play. I remember my first show was in Chris Rinaldi's basement, playing for 3 people.
Record hops, that sort of thing?
Yeah, yeah. And remember who Dick Biondi?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was WLS. No, Dick Biondi, I finally did a show. I went to a show and I brought him a frozen pizza. And in my whole career, I've gotten 3 autographs. Dick Biondi, he says, "See you at the Hop," or something like that.
Yeah, right.
I brought him with that, and Art Roberts, and I got one from Sting for my daughter.
Ah.
That was it.
Yeah.
I played with John Lennon, but I never got an autograph from him.
You didn't get an autograph? Yeah, because you do have something of a history of having worked with Lennon at one point. Yeah. Was this a request that had come to you that he wanted to? Yeah,
it was Jack Douglas who produced our first record, who produced Double Fantasy, who produced Aerosmith, produced all kinds of stuff. They had session guys in. Earl Slick, who was actually on guitar at the time. And Jack felt that John Lennon they were studio guys. They were a little too clean.
Right.
There was some noise. I got plenty of noise. So we went in, we played. It was actually the day my son Dax was born, August 12th, 1980. And he's the drummer in Cheap Trick. So.
Right.
That was the only time I wasn't around for my kids being born, was playing with John Lennon.
Is Lennon the only person you would have you'd have missed the birth of your son for?
Well, my story is, if it was McCartney, I asked, fuck him. Just kidding.
No, I understand.
I'll guitar to Paul McCartney.
But this was also the time when Lennon was kind of trying to break the mold of being a Beatle.
Yeah, well, he hadn't recorded anything in about 5 years.
Right, and he was trying to go back to the more simpler, sort of basic rock sound.
Like the rock and roll album he had.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's Gene Vincent, right?
Yep.
We played once with, we were the sort of go-to kind of house band for the area where I lived. Musicians would come through, bands would come through, so we would be the opening act. And then...
I'm still the opening act.
Come on. Hardly. At any rate. And people like Bobby Darin came through.
Oh, yeah. Mac the Knife.
Here's a drum story for you.
Okay.
This is at a high school in Logan, West Virginia, mining town in Logan, West Virginia, right? Yeah. And I'm sitting there at a school desk, and I'm kind of, warming up with my drumsticks on the desk of the school. And Darin walks through, because we were going to be his backup band. And as he walks by, like a stupid 15, 16-year-old kid, I had to say something. So I said, "Hey, Bobby, I hear you play the drums. Let's have a battle out there, man." And he looked at me like I was a complete idiot, and he said, and I'll quote you, "I'll cut you anytime, man." And then kept going. And he did, by the way. He ended up coming on stage with us, during his set and playing every instrument.
Yeah. So next time, shut up, Chris.
Shut the hell up. That's right. Exactly. At any rate, back to your early days of so it was somebody's basement. Then what? Record hops.
I don't know if you were into sports. I was at.
Oh yeah.
I never played or went to a football game, a basketball game, or anything unless I was playing at it. Unless I was. The entertainment at homecoming, and never went to any of that stuff unless I was playing at it. It's like there were other people that I gotta go out with my girl or this. It's like I always thought there'd be time for that. Still waiting to get some time for that. But
were you guys playing at halftime or before the game or whatever?
Yeah, I was playing at halftime, playing at the show after the game.
Right. And then the logical progression was, how was your family about the fact that you had decided, obviously you decided at some point to become a professional musician?
Well, that's what my dad was, really. So it's like...
Yeah.
When...
it made perfect sense to them, or...
Yeah, well, you think about it. My dad had a music store, and, by the time, I got a little older, he built it up. It was the largest store in northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. Band instruments for all kinds of people. I used to deliver organs and stuff for people who bought them and stuff. So here I am in the music business, and like I said, I'm an only child.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were happy I had any sort of a job, because I didn't want to study, but I liked music. And that's what I'm still doing. I mean, it's like I haven't grown up. I've just grown old.
Well, you've grown older.
Yeah, well, I'm catching up with you, though.
It doesn't work that way. I'm sorry.
Shit!
I wish it did, but it doesn't.
I watched some of your podcasts, and it's like people swear on there, too.
Yeah, they do. It's fine.
You did, too. I heard that.
Absolutely. It's absolutely fine. We live in a modern age.
Bobby Darin was right. You're going to cut you.
Yeah. So here you are, a young man now. You're in your late teens, early 20s?
Late teens, yeah. I remember about an hour ago you said something about going out and being in a band and stuff like that. By the time, at the end of my high school days, I'd gotten a record contract.
Wow.
On Epic Records. I was just graduating high school. And so we were pretty popular, and it's like, we made really good money. I think I made about $10,000 when I was 18.
Jesus!
And then after I got a second record deal, and we went down to $250 a night.
Yeah.
Making any money.
Yeah.
We played with the Kinks on tour with them, and I think we got like $500 a night or something like that. And Ray Davies would always want half of that money.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, brutal. Jesus.
So we paid him some of the time, but then after a while we said, forget this, we spent so much money. And he chased us around at Red Rocks. You trick manager, you owe me money. And I've always thought, here's Ray Davies, and he's chasing us for $250.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Really?
And he would be tripping his brother, too, pushing him over the amp.
Oy, oy, oy.
He used to do that with Dave.
Yeah? Oh, boy.
I'm glad I had no brothers. I would have killed them.
Yeah. So then, to bring it to a certain extent back to this culinary theme that we start with, what was that like when you were a young man on the road traveling around? Were you still eating in restaurants? Were you still? Yeah,
you still had to. It's like there weren't all the 24-hour places or whatever.
Right.
I remember we played in Milwaukee. We used to go to. We didn't have much money, so after the end of the night, there's a Chinese place down here that was open till real late.
Right.
Perfect. Musicians, it's like, where do you go to? Now you can go to all kinds of stuff that's open late. But back then, Chinese food, I love Chinese food, and I still do. That was one place we used to go and get that. And, like I said, I used to eat barbecue way back. There was a place called Paul Bunyan's, which was made out of a log cabin, and it was like, I loved barbecue. Ever since then, it was like, I wasn't just one of these new guys that likes barbecue.
Where was that?
That was actually in Rockford, Illinois, the Paul Bunyan. And they had a player piano inside there that played a piano.
Yeah, right.
With a banjo where he had a tambourine on the thing.
Yeah, right.
The food was great. And it was, I tell people, it's like, I said, I've been around almost as long as Abraham Lincoln. And so I did like this log cabin stuff.
Yeah. God. So then you have, through the years, can you describe, for instance, when you guys were sitting and recording, as you got more well-known and you had a record deal, you could spend more time in the studio, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And generally, I'm generalizing here, but generally speaking, bands record way late into the night. How did you keep yourself going?
Well, we
culinarily.
Let's see. When we did our first record with Cheap Trick, we recorded in 1976. We recorded at the record plant in New York.
Yeah.
And that was before they cleaned it all up around there.
Uh-huh.
So, I think we did 20 songs in 7 days.
What?
Something like that.
Wow.
On our first album.
Where was the record plant? Do you remember?
44th and 8th, I think.
44th and 8th. So sort of the heart of sort of Times Square area back when Times Square area, when I first moved to New York, was a dangerous place. Yeah,
well, it's like here you get a bunch of young musicians from Illinois walking around, and you have a pocket full of quarters because you could go over to Show World and see all kinds of stuff that you don't see normally.
Yeah, right.
and you get some of those dirty water dogs.
Dirty water dog?
The carts they push around that have.
Oh, yeah.
hot dogs.
Yeah, yeah. Sabaret hot
Delicious.
dogs.
We call it dirty water dogs.
Yeah. Understandably. With the kraut in the dirty water, the sauerkraut in the dirty water.
After we got in Himmel, das sprechen viele Deutsch. I learned German when I lived there for a while too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, actually, my mother-in-law. I'm still married to my first wife.
Yes.
Her grandmother lived in Nuremberg. 125. Straße, Stadtmitte Nuremberg.
Mm-hmm.
For a while there, I was actually a vegetarian, so I had no money to buy anything.
Right.
And I used to eat Lachsbrot.
Which is?
Lachs and bread.
Ah.
I came home one time from Germany at Christmas time, and being a vegetarian, it's like there was turkeys and hams, and screw that. You know?
I'm back.
Started eating meat again.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the life of the flesh.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, now through all this, despite dirty water and eating out in restaurants and what have you, you have now gone into the food world as a partner in a couple of restaurants.
Yeah, one of them is Swedish, like Matilda Tyberg, my little nanny that I had.
Yeah.
We make Swedish pancakes.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a Stockholm Inn, and that's like...
Is this in Rockford?
In Rockford, that's in Rockford.
Yeah.
It had been in business for a long time, and the lady that ran it, my parents used to eat there all the time, but this woman had one daughter and who had cancer, so she had nobody to leave it to, and she was working herself into death.
Yes, right.
So there's about 20 of us chipped in, got a bunch of money, and paid her and bought the place. And I've had it now 25 or 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And I said, whatever they do, don't make the coffee any better. Make sure it's still creamy. I think we have about 12,000 customers a week there.
Wow.
Which is a lot.
It's interesting, isn't it? Certain traditions, even if they're culinarily suspect, that you shouldn't break.
No, yeah, just
tradition.
Yeah, at one point we had it used to be a no smoking section, a smoking section, and a no air oxygen tank section.
You're kidding?
Yeah. So what's the average age of our customers here? I said it's deceased.
Right.
Yeah. But it's still going strong. You know, it's not cookie cutter. It's not.
Right.
I met a guy in Chicago, and he was from New Haven.
Yep.
And
right down the road from me here. That's where we are.
He used to play a place called Sally's, I think it was called.
Yep.
And he wanted to have a pizza place in Chicago. So I went in and looked at the place, and I liked his business plan. And it was like, and we've been there 22 years.
Oh.
A place called Peace, P-I-E-C-E, and Peace Pizza. So
and for our listeners,
pizza in a thick crust town.
Yeah. I was just going to say for those of my audience who are both listening and watching.
Oh, the people walking in.
Wow. Chicago pizza is noted for being thick crust. New Haven is just the opposite.
Yeah, thin crust.
Yeah, and it's wonderful
we've been
pizza.
There 22 years now. I've taken a lot of musicians there. I've had Foo Fighters there about four times. I've had Def Leppard there. I had Fab Four. You know those guys? No, I don't. I played with them in a couple of days. Yeah, it's the guys from Jimmy Vivino and Will Lee, guys who were on Letterman and all those great session guys.
Right, exactly.
They've been there, and I've had pizza for AC/DC. Some people. There's great people working there. I mean, I like getting other people jobs. I don't want to work any more than I do. God knows you've worked your share. I'm too dumb to quit, Chris. Come on.
I was watching actually an interview with the three of you.
The Three Stooges?
Yeah, with Xander and Tom and you were talking about at one point when Tom left the group for a number of years, and he said it was the year he left, you guys had played 270 gigs. You played 270 shows.
Yeah. Well, we're still on a crash collision.
Jesus. I mean, after when I was in college, I did a tour of one-nighters, theater. We were doing Shakespeare and Moliere, and we we were the people who did the sets. I was the lighting designer, and I played Romeo. And
oh, hello.
oh, it was a great time. But eight months, 35,000 miles. And at the end of it, you know, you had to be, I was 23 years old, 22 years old. How do you have the energy now to keep doing it?
I like what I do. I like to play. I mean, it's like the traveling blows, of course, but it's like, you know, it's like, look at me. I look shady anyhow. So after 9/11, you know, I get frisked every time I get in a freaking airport. But I still, now I kind of like it.
Speaking of how you look, it's always fascinated me, the stage persona that you created.
Well, look, I don't have a big schwanz or good looks like you. You know, I do what I got.
What was the impetus for that? How did that start?
I was never going to be a charmer.
A rock star looking guy? Is that what you mean?
You know, I didn't have it didn't look like Keith Richards or Jimmy Page or Jimi Hendrix or whatever.
Right. Or Xander is a great looking guy.
Xander, well, I can't stand him. He's too good looking. You know?
Right. So you decided, what did you base it on?
I wrote songs. I was a songwriter.
Right.
You know, it's like, I still am. So I was like, you know, I'm not that great on guitar. I'm not that great looking. I'm not, you know, I got everything going against me.
There were people who would take exception at several of those comments, but please continue.
Well, I can't help the people's bad taste.
Yeah. Go ahead.
If I put a pair of cowboy boots on, I don't look cool. I look like a clown with a cowboy boots on.
Mm-hmm.
And so none of the stuff, I never looked like the guys that I kind of emulate. You know, I was like, oh, but this is great and that's that. And but I didn't want to look like well, I like Charlie Daniels too, but I mean, I didn't want to look like he was walking around. So it's like.
But how did that particular look come to you?
Well, nothing looks good on me. So it's like I didn't want to go out nude. So, but nothing looks good on me, and so I found the minute I put a piece of clothing on, it gets wrinkled. You know? It's like I never look good, no matter what, you know. And so it's like, I used to go to
secondhand
stores, and we get pants that would fit. Maybe they're too short, but who cares? And shoes, if I put on real cool shoes, wasn't me. So, you know, I used to run a lot. I used to buy wrestling shoes and this and that stuff. And I used to run a lot too, but I said, but I have asthma. I still have asthma my whole life. So it's like, I could never be fast enough to do it. I was never enough. If I'd be in a race, if there were three places, first, second, third, I'd always be fourth. You know, I'd never get up to the next.
Yeah, I know the feeling, by the way.
But what I do is I'm comfortable with it. Well, you want to borrow some of my clothes?
Sure.
Maybe make your career a movie career.
Hey, I need a second act.
Yeah.
At any rate, so the look, how did that happen? The cap, the sweater, the bow tie. Because I remember the first time I saw you guys, and
I was good looking then too.
Who was that? What's going on with this guy? He's amazing, and maybe that's the key.
Yeah. Well, if you try to, you know, it's like I look back at all these bands that were around. It's like, you know, I wrote most of the songs originally, so it's like,
right.
I thought about changing my name, you know, for each song. You know, like this one's too mushy, or this one's too this way. So, and actually, our bass player, Tom Peterson, said, "Don't change your name. You know, just say what you do." And you know, it's like, so I am me. You know, there's good parts about me, there's bad parts about me, but all the parts kind of go together.
Yeah.
It's like when if I try to look cool, or if you try to look cool, or if you have to tell people you're cool, you're probably not.
Yes, if you have to try.
Yeah, it's like, so I try to just be as much of me as I can. It's like, you know, it's like I drive a smart car, you know. I've got other cars, but that's what suits me right.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's like only my ex-managers would have a Ferrari.
Right.
I don't know. I didn't write all this junk down. I just do.
Yep. You're essentially saying that it basically just happened.
I'm stupid and I'm sticking with it.
Okay. And what about and I don't know if this is a signature of the band or if this is one of yours, but the black and white checkerboard? Not your fillings. Come on. Get out of your mouth. What's
checkerboard?
Oh, really? Oh, I can't see it. Ah, oh, wow. So that's a signature of yours?
Well, at my age, all white teeth or a gold grill.
Yeah. Very cool. Where did that come from?
Well, the idea of checkerboards, I mean, I didn't make up checkerboards, but I just always liked black, white.
Yeah. Because it's very distinctive and it pops.
Here, want to look again?
Wow. You are a man of very specific tastes.
Yeah, no taste.
No, I didn't say that.
I did.
No, I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth. So, speaking of putting words in your mouth, I have a question that I almost always finish with. Not almost, always finish with.
We're almost done?
Almost.
Okay.
If there is one food memory, something that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something that happened when you were a kid, but that takes you back. For instance, if you're sitting someplace and you're having a meal and suddenly you taste something and, whoa, I just thought of this moment when I was a kid and this was going on, or this taste that I recall. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Actually, I make my own salad dressing.
Oh.
But one of my favorites when I just think about it, it's like, we started going to Japan in 1978.
Mm-hmm.
And we've gone there almost every year for 45 years.
Wow.
Back in those days, there was no sushi around. There was no this or that. And I just loved things they have. Even the stuff that that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these raw things or whatever. But it's like, it's such a departure. I mean, I had German food, I had the Spanish food, I had Mexican food, all kinds of stuff. But the Japanese food, it was just distinct. And so I've loved Japan ever since the first time I've been there. I loved it before I went there because those people liked me before they'd seen me.
And that's where you guys really burst on the scene, was after that great live album, the Budokan album.
They liked us there. I mean, it's like, and I thought they were the smartest people on earth, Not
Right.
Yeah, they liked us, and they didn't really know that much about us. It was the perfect thing. It was like, we're trying to make it all over in the United States or whatever. But the people there, they learned how to speak English, a lot of them, from hearing our stuff, and they liked our music.
Yes.
We're kind of like heroes there.
Mm-hmm.
Chase us around, and I just love it. The people are great.
It's very exciting. But where does it have to do with your salad dressing?
Well, because they had great salad dressing there, too. It wasn't like the same stuff that we had oil and vinegar, and it's like, they had like ginger, and they have ground up this or that, and it's like, and the stuff I make is it's ketchup and onion, and I call it like a Swedish dressing. It's different than they have any other place. I don't know. I just like it.
Is it kind of
the salads there and the fresh stuff and the fresh foods and the dishes that they have that are just unique to there, which you don't get. Now there's a lot of Japanese and Oriental stuff. We can get it lots of places, but they have that authentic stuff. I'd go into a restaurant and it's only chicken. And so it's like, this place has only bacon with every vegetable. It's like, wow, why didn't I think of that? And it's just extra cool. You can get meat and potatoes lots of places, but there's a different spin on it. And it just you feel like excited that you feel like you're the first guy that ever had some of this stuff.
Yes, exactly. Now, I also ask all my guests for a recipe.
Okay.
Would you share your salad dressing recipe with me?
Can I send it to you? Because I got it written.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah. With a little blurb about.
I'll blurb all over it.
Okay, great. Well, with that, Rick Nielsen, I thank you. I thank you for a delightful conversation. Thank you for being a guest on Cooking by Heart, and I wish you safe travels and continuation with your jet lag.
Permanent jet lag.
Your perpetual jet lag.
Here's what you need, guys.
With that, folks, we send you back to ground zero. Take care, Rick.
Love your show.
Thanks again.
Back to reality. Here we go.